What's up, YouTube? let's go. Let's go catch up with a few things that's on my mind. So we get a few people in here. We're gonna try to serenade you with a theme song. We're gonna try to get you up in this joint a little bit. How's everybody doing? Hopefully, well. So I'm gonna try to give everybody a few minutes to pile in. See how we do from there. I know that there's going to be some people who are not going to like what I'm going to talk about. And it's going to be a little touchy. It's going to be a little wild, I guess. But it's always going to be entertaining. Yes, don't worry, folks. We're still having the Coliseum tonight, I think. I think so. I wasn't notified by out of Vidmore, so we're going to go by that we're still having it. I'm going to give everybody a few minutes to come in, and we're going to be back talking on stuff that's on my mind. And we're back. Let's see what's been happening since. We have 5 police officers in Memphis, Tennessee kick, punch, and beat a man pretty much to death. For what? For what? What makes this incredible? Hey, what's up, Linda? What makes this incredible is that it's going to be kind of hard for anybody with any common sense to justify this. Years being in the police department for myself, well, decades. Almost 2 decades of law enforcement experience. If you want to be factual, actually. Lonnie Mac, what's up? I think it's one of those things where, one, it's a lack of oversight. Lack of internet prowess. We got the G with the PhD, Green Gorilla in the building. It's a lack of empathy. It's a lack of professionalism. It's a lack of so many things in one video. What on God's green earth made you think that that level of violence was needed from an unarmed suspect? And don't get me wrong, there's sometimes you got to whoop a little ass to do what you got to do. But to see the guy on the ground and kick him multiple times, have 2 officers hold him up and repeatedly punch him in the face while handcuffed behind his back, slam him on the ground till he literally slumped over unconscious. What can you do to justify that? I know. I've been in some knockdown, drag-out fights myself. Some are stories of legend. But there's a time and there's a purpose. When the guy submits, the fight is over. Sorry. The fight's over. I don't care what he said about your mom. Yeah, you might still be amped up, but that's the reason why you're called a professional. You don't take it personal, it's professional. You got a lot of guys out here who are not police officers. Well, I'm not going to say a lot. You have a select few people out here who are not police officers. They're just thugs with badges. That was a mob hit. When I saw the video, I'm like, why do you still got to beat him over the head if he's already subdued? I talked about it some on the Bit of Truth channel. And I'm like, this is a double whammy. Because, one, they were sure as hell quick to put them officers' faces and identities out quicker than a motherfucker. And all 5 are black. And I don't even think that anybody had more time than what, 5? I don't think anybody had 10 years on. Where were the senior officers? Where were the sergeants? Where was the oversight? Where was the oversight? There was nobody who said, okay, he's done. He's done. You got him. He's subdued. Nobody even puts that in their mind like, wait a minute. This is too much. This is a little too much going on. Anybody? But now we want pressure. I'm going to tell you, those guys in their young careers, you're right. Inexperience and a lack of professionalism equal death in that situation. You're not going to catch them all. Somewhere out there, statistically, you can't catch them all. You fight another day. On a very theoretical level, that is the tyranny that you're not supposed to induce against the citizenry. Correct me if I'm wrong, because we do have a PhD in philosophy, and the philosophy of law enforcement is supposed to be to protect and serve. I can tell you about the ugliness and the beauty of law enforcement. I can even tell you about many of the theories. But when in practice, you have to keep a calm head about you. That's the reason why a police officer cannot arrest you for disturbing their peace. By law, a police officer's peace cannot be disturbed because he's an agent of the state. Now, if the citizenry, if their peace is being disturbed, that's another subject. You're supposed to be the calm one. You're supposed to be the cool, calm, collective type. Nobody will ever fault you for going hands-on at a reasonable pace. If a guy's trying to punch you, it is responsible and agreeable that you go hands-on with them. If a guy tries to swing and punch, yes, you can tase him, punch him, kick him, pepper spray him, even use your baton to render that person into a moment of submission where you can effect an arrest. You can even get up to the level of deadly force if someone has either the physical might and skill or a weapon that can induce great bodily harm or death. But this is not that. There's no justification for it. Ring Gorilla said 3 of these guys were members of my fraternity. They acted dishonorably. They needed to be fired and incarcerated. Oh, they're incarcerated for this shit. They're incarcerated for this shit. This is definitely what they call unbecoming of an officer. There's certain things you're doing when you're supposed to be the representation of the state and the city. Why do you think they call you the nickname of Baltimore's finest, Chicago's finest, New York's finest, Miami's finest? Because you're supposed to be the people who are the moral compass and shield, aka the headlights, aka the shield around the city that protects the city from the invaders, and the criminals. You're supposed to be the moral compass. When people see you, you're supposed to be the great barrier from chaos to peace. You can't say to me that this guy was so bad that you literally had to beat him into the point of unconsciousness, really, if you want to say it, coma, into death. Was he that bad of a threat? If you got him in handcuffs on the ground, the fight stops. Shout out to the electrician 480, ladies and gentlemen. Salute to you and salute. Thank you for being a supporter, not only to my channel, but to other brothers out there who speak the truth.
By the power of Grayskull.
These young men should have been guided. They should have been properly taught and trained that this is not what you're supposed to do. Sure, he ran, you give chase. He's resisting arrest. Sure, you can administer joint locks. You can administer empty hand strikes, baton strikes, tasers, pepper spray. Look how many options I've given you alone than to just beat him to death. Let's put this in perspective. Your first reaction, because he made you run and because you wanted to get him, was to handcuff him, have him on the ground, tackle him and throw him to the ground, beat him, kick him, handcuff him, and just take pop shots. Let's see what the newsreel says.
Are speaking now. Let's listen in to their attorneys.
And this is going to be the attorneys of those officers.
Public has been released to us. The next step will be that we officially sign on as lawyers for these defendants, and that triggers the beginning of the discovery process. So sometime in the near future, we will get not only what's released to the public, but everything else. Every single angle out there, every interview, every piece of paper that the state has, they will have to turn over to us.
Counsel, can you confirm all your clients were part of the Scorpion unit?
Yes, I can confirm that Mr. Mills was part of the Scorpion unit.
And you, Mr. Massey?
Yes, I can confirm Mr. Martin was part of the Scorpion unit.
There's a difference in the bond amount between your two clients, but the charges are identical. Any thoughts or explanation there?
Again, we're without information to answer a lot of these questions.
So at this point, you're just clueless of what's going on with the whole thing, because you don't have any answers for us right now, because you haven't reviewed the video. You just know just bits and pieces, just like many of us.
The state and TBI evidently have the answers right now that you want to know the answer to, the questions you want to know the answer to, and we're without information to answer the questions. So I object to the characterization of clueless. But obviously we've speaking with Mr. Massey, but have spoken with our clients. We obviously have started to think about potential defenses. We are getting to know our clients. I've spent some time with Desmond Mills and have learned a lot about his background. And what I've learned so far is that he is known not only here locally, but back where he's from in Connecticut as just a gentle, respectful father a family man. I actually spoke with some of his family members today. His father, who talked about his own admiration for his son as somebody who dedicated his life to being a law enforcement officer. And not only is Mr. Mills obviously devastated to find himself charged with a crime, but as somebody who is on the other side of law enforcement, somebody who has been in charge of keeping our community safe, to be accused of something like this hurts him on another level.
Do either have prior experience in any law enforcement departments?
Desmond Mills does. He, well, not law enforcement, he has been a jailer both in Mississippi and Tennessee.
I understand attorney-client privilege, but can you kind of talk about their disposition today?
So, Bill, I'll let you answer that one first.
Well, anytime a police officer is going to jail, it's a traumatic moment. And so he was experiencing that this morning. I surrendered him to the TBI this morning.
Give me 1 second, I'm gonna pull that back up.
And he resolved himself and moved forward.
It's hard to know with anybody, but especially with somebody like Mr. Mills, who is very mild-mannered, very respectful. He has put on a very strong facade, but I know underneath it all, this is causing him and his family a lot of anxiety and a lot of pain, not only for his own situation, but for what this kind of accusation, what this kind of incident is doing to our city.
Well, nobody thinks of the pain of the loved ones who lost a guy from a car stop. That's very interesting. You got to be very cognizant of what you're doing in this fucking field, man. Continuing.
Are concerned. I know I'm concerned not only as a lawyer for my client's safety, but for this community and the frustrations that exist in this community, especially with these kinds of events. So, with that in mind, talking about turning them in, do appreciate how law enforcement has cooperated with us and with our clients in making sure that they were able to turn themselves in safely, that they are safe within the jail, and that they will be released safely. I know that Mr. Mills is posting his bond. He is in the process of being let out, and that will be. We are now at the very beginning of what will be a long process.
Sir, can I ask you, sir, about how you're going to and what happened?
Well, so when you talk about what happened, that is obviously something I can't talk about at this point. Of course. No, they have not let anybody see the video. We're hearing that's going to be released soon, and we'll be watching, obviously, with from a different angle, but we will certainly be watching as well.
Does that mean that your client has a bond-out plan as well?
The first question
Or
is,
what
has
plan?
he spoken about claiming it for the family or said anything about condolences even for the family?
He could not be more upset about this entire situation. Again, somebody who has dedicated his life to protecting society, to protecting the community, to be accused of being involved in the death of others is devastating to him. We have not had a conversation specifically about Mr. Nichols, but knowing Mr. Mills and the kind of person he is, I cannot imagine that he has anything other than feelings of grief for this family who has lost somebody. I understand we are defense lawyers. We are representing people accused of causing somebody else's death, but that doesn't mean that we're not aware of the fact that there's a lot of pain from Nichols' family and in his community. So we and our clients, again, not to speak for Mr. Massey, but I know I and my client, Mr. Mills, are well aware of that.
All of us are. I think all of us are. And, the state has had this matter indicted, and there are numerous allegations made against all of the officers. And I watched the conference today. I thought General Mulroy did a very nice job of presenting his side to the media. And he asked for justice. And we agreed. Justice means following the law. And the law says is that no one is guilty until a jury says they're guilty. And so that's a process, and that's going to take a long time. Eventually, this state will be able to place their case in front of a jury, a group of citizens from the community. And if they have sufficient proof, that jury will say guilty. And if they do not have sufficient proof, that jury will say not guilty. At this point, we don't know what proof they have because we've not seen, we do not have discovery. We've not seen the video. So we're kind of in the blind right now. And this process is just starting.
Mr. Martin, can you explain to us if your client is bonding out today as well? And have you had your initial conversation with your client?
Certainly. I spent a week with him.
Similar from your description of him, and is it the same at this time as police officer? How he responded to it?
There is no way. No one out there that night intended for Tyree Nichols to die. No one. No one.
And is he bonding
And
out?
it's shocking. That's shocking to the officers. It's shocking. I would just imagine police officers have a very difficult and dangerous job, and sometimes a thankless job. And it's probably one of their worst fears that something like this would happen on their watch.
Gentlemen,
It's shocking.
I'm sorry, gentlemen, both of you are experienced lawyers here. This city hasn't seen anything like this with 5 officers being charged at one time. What would you say about the meaning of it in a historical context? This case, what it means to the city about this? And
I'm going to say this on a limb. If that would have been 5, sorry about that, folks. Had some difficulties. And I do agree with them. Each officer should have their day in court. Each officer should be tried compared to the preponderance of evidence. And the lack of thereof. I think this is going to be another issue that somebody's going to profit off of, unfortunately. It's going to be some lawyer, some community organizer that you never heard of before. And this is the sad part. I'm trying to see if I get more information on each officer.
The video, say those who've seen it, shows police in Memphis beating this man, Tyree Nichols, pulled over in a traffic stop January 7th. It's described as savage. Senior investigators in Tennessee say they've never seen anything so brutal. I'm grieved. Frankly, I'm shocked. I'm sickened by what I saw. In now laying criminal charges against the 5 now ex-officers accused, including second-degree murder for each of them, local authorities made their position clear. While each of the 5 individuals played a different role in the incident in question, the actions of all of them resulted in the death of Tyree Nichols, and they are all responsible. Little is known of what brought it all on, but that the ex-officers themselves are black is notable in a country that has so often seen police violence against black Americans at the hands of white officers. Nichols survived 3 days in hospital, seen here in a photo released by his family, underlining the apparent ferocity of the assault. It's left many worried. Widespread fury will soon turn to violent protests, not least because of this. The city will be releasing the video sometime after 6 p.m. Friday. It will come, say police, with 3 angles, mostly unedited. On that, this guidance from a lawyer for one of the accused ex-officers.
Unfortunately, we've all over the last couple of years seen videos where there's police brutality involved. And so I would just caution the public to reserve judgment.
The family of Tyree Nichols welcomes the charges and the coming release of that video, urging that any demonstrations be peaceful. Say many, the underlying message is the need for police reform in this country, now reignited as Memphis braces. Paul Hunter, CBC News, Washington.
I've always listened to police reform and all this. You don't have a lot of people with a set plan, with the exception of Dr. T and the Great Faulkner Initiative. Those are the only 2 I've heard of. You look at it, you say to yourself, this could have been avoided. This could have been avoided.
All right, good to have you with us here on scene. Justice, quickly, this
Because I'm trying to find when they have their information.
Former police officers feel oppression. We were told that they all played different roles on January 7th in that violent assault against Tyree Nichols. But according to the district attorney, all of what they did contributed equally to the death of the 29-year-old.
You do know we have a constitutional law that prevents the National Guard being the police, right? Even when the National Guard is activated, they assist the police. They are not the police. Stop that. Stop that. I'm gonna put this in with Brother Carter. Do you really want to live in a city or state where there's no police? I want you to answer that, man.
That autopsy, you talk about that independent autopsy paid for by the family, showing that his death was caused by extensive bleeding, the result of a severe beating. Nichols was a FedEx driver, described by his mother as a loving and near-perfect son. And lawyers from the family say in a statement that they feel these charges go some way to providing hope that justice will be served here. The district attorney calling these charges extremely serious, but saying that they are appropriate given the evidence they have to support them of what happened that night on January 7th. Katie?
What are we expecting to see when this video is released tomorrow, sir?
Well, so the district attorney talking about the fact that the video had to be withheld at this point to preserve the integrity of this investigation and ensure that the witnesses that they were speaking to were actually recounting what they themselves witnessed and not potentially what they saw in a videotape that was circulating. But now that this investigation has gotten to the point that it is, they do expect that the video is going to be released sometime after 6 p.m. Local time tomorrow night. What we understand about this from...
As a matter of fact, where do you live? Yeah, there's always been some type of police agency throughout history. Human beings don't do a good job of policing themselves. Sorry, they just don't. Let's see what the stark brutality of America's specialized police units exposed. Boy, you're gonna have a lot of naysayers and people who don't even do investigations say a lot of shit.
The body camera video that we're about to share with you is some of the most disturbing I have seen.
Trust me, New Orleans Police Department has never spoken highly of.
That there was a confrontation and the suspect fled on foot. There was a second confrontation. He then complained of shortness of breath and was taken to the hospital for medical care. Stephen, when you look at the body camera video, what do you see?
Well, I see American policing, and I see a facet of American policing that politicians don't want to acknowledge, that continues to go unabated even though we've been here before. I see an American policing where a person can be pulled over for nothing, a tail light, whatever, reckless driving, though there's no evidence of that.
Well, Steve is the same type of guy who will call, "Oh, there's guys speeding on the street," but he's also the same guy to say, "Why did you have to do that? You called us here, sir."
And can end up dead. That is the American policing, particularly with the specialized unit, as we'll talk about later, being the Scorpion unit, what a name that is. I see American policing in full, the way people need to see it, understand that this underbelly policing, when it deals with people in the working class and, in minorities and neighborhoods that are minority, it is horrible and it is ugly, and we need to see this.
Very true. So we're going to give you an overview, both of what we see on the body camera as well as some of what we see on the street camera. Tyre Nichols was kicked in the face and body at least 3 times. We then see an officer give multiple uppercut punches, sucker punching him, while Tyre is cuffed and under the full control of 3 other officers. The excessive force is obvious to see. One of the officers kicked him so viciously that he injured his own leg and was limping afterwards and complained of pain. You can hear another officer breathing heavy, sniffling. Obviously, the officers received a large dose of their own pepper spray in the process. You also see the officers standing around, talking to each other afterwards, discussing the chase while he was propped up against the side of the car cuffed. These 5 officers were charged with aggravated kidnapping as well as second-degree murder. Their family attorney, Anthony Ramanucci, said that this was an act of terrorism. Stephen, I have to ask you, why do you think such incredibly aggressive actions and even murder can result from a simple traffic infraction, from a simple traffic stop?
Well, let's watch the beginning of the video and show how the officers approach him to begin with. That is uniquely American style policing. In other words, something we call blanket criminality, presumption of guilt without presumption of innocence, and also, I think, the actual unimpeded sense of empowerment and power, that if you don't immediately, especially when you have people running, at you, that you don't immediately say, concede to their power, they will take unbelievably unlimited violent actions towards you. And, it reminds me of the case of Michael Banks in Trenton, New Jersey. Body camera footage of another specialized unit attacking him in the same way. So people are going to react, and yet police presume that they own your body and that our rights don't exist. We talk about this all the time. Was that a custodial stop? I mean, what was the probable cause? We see none of that in the video. Nothing that really gives us. Don't you get that same impression?
Absolutely. I was shocked by the initial aggression with which the officers approached the car. It was absolutely excessive from the very beginning.
And let's move on now to the second part. So he escapes because obviously he's afraid. I mean, you get the sense that it was fear that prompted him to run, right?
Oh, absolutely. As anyone can imagine, if officers approach your car aggressively, run, jump towards your car, then threaten to taser you, insist that you lay face down on the ground before you even know why you're being pulled over, it's understandable that this young man would flee in terror.
After he escapes with no crime, right? And this was interesting when it comes down to the kidnapping part, because they had no probable cause to put him in any sort of custody. So they find him, they chase him down about 80 yards from his mom's home, and then we see that beating, from the security camera that's kind of on a pole, and it's horrific in its cruelty, it is horrific in its duration, right?
I was absolutely just devastated to not only see this officer kick him again and again and again in the head and body, but then to see when he was completely under the control of three officers, had his hands behind his back, to see an officer essentially sucker punch him again and again. So, Stephen, you took a look at some of the information that was put out about his injuries. We saw on camera that he was multiple times in the head and body. We saw that he received multiple blows to the head as well. He was tasered. He was pepper sprayed. What did you see in this information?
Well, it seemed to me that I saw some injuries, some kidney injuries, which I think we had talked about would come from that really horrific kick, right? So kidney injuries, there must have been some internal organ injuries. It could have been kidney failure. And then they were talking about bleeding on the brain. Because
I think that was obvious when you see that he has his hands behind his back. Those three officers have him under control, and that one officer keeps punching him again and again in the face, in the skull. It's not at all questionable why he experienced this type of severe injury. It's horrifying. I can only imagine how difficult this was for his parents to watch.
Well, I think the question we have to ask is where is the justification for this use of brutality? In other words, we come to accept police being violent with us, but we never ask for the justification. In other words, saying, do we realize how insane it is that you're kicking a young man in the head over nothing, over literally nothing, not a crime, unarmed? He'd been not committed a crime. They said, wild driving or whatever, reckless driving. But there was no evidence of that. And so then you're kicking him in. So how does American policing, how does American society get from a young man sitting at a light in his car to kicking him in the head to death? Okay, and I think what we see here is the spectrum of American police force on the ugly side of the spectrum, the people who are like pro-cop or say, we shouldn't hold police accountable.
I can only imagine those who are Blue Line supporters who we will hear most likely all over social media saying, well, he shouldn't have run. I think we can understand.
Okay, let me pause it there. Number one, I am a Blue Line supporter. Police are held accountable. A lot. And here's the craziness about it. It's not just a police issue. It's an American issue. America itself is a violent place. Any country is a violent place. Australia and England, they have a total gun ban. What they won't talk about is how much violence, stabbing, fights and violence occurs in England and Australia. Human beings are naturally violent. It's funny how this female who's black, I think she's black or mixed, and this white male who are given this expose are the same people who will call police to do violence on their behalf. So it's ebb and flow. It's either you calling them or don't call them. Everybody who's majority of people, even Brandon fucking Tatum said these guys deserve to go to jail. Nobody who supports the police in their right fucking state of mind will be supportive of these actions. That's lunacy, okay? That's just fucking lunacy. Now, one of the biggest mistakes that I said earlier that they created was a lack of professionalism. A lack of professionalism can be very dangerous and detrimental. Are there times you got to be aggressive as a police officer? Yes. Let's just let's not be coy and act like we're not dealing with a violent populace at some point. It may not be every call, it may not be majority of the calls, but at some point you are going to have to be aggressive or you're not going to make it, baby. When you're coming and you're doing stuff that they did, that's irreprehensible. There's no accountability that you can come up with that explains their actions. There's no comprehension. When you look at this, you can't just blame the system. You got to blame that individual. Because you got all the reform in the world you want. Until that individual does something, he's going to have to be held accountable. Or in this case, those 5 officers. Because they have procedures in the general orders or policies and procedures, whatever the departments call it, whatever famous little SRP, whatever they give it. People can say, well, he should not run or do all this other stuff. Maybe he should, maybe he shouldn't. That's not the important part. Criminals run. Everybody knows it's the cop's job to catch them. It's the criminal's job to get away. It's part of the job. Here's the point in principle. What probable cause did you have to conduct the stop? What caused this action for the car stop? Did you run the plates where they stole them? Because a stolen vehicle, which nobody has said to this point that it was, is going to get a different reaction than a light being out, a tail light being out. Why do you need to have guns out blazing, get the fuck out of the car, and all this other stuff? All right, what's up, Romelo? Like, there has to be, this is the reason why an investigation has to be pursued. What the fuck were you stopping them for is number one. Because your stop, even if it's justified, why did all this occur? What caused, and what did your God-given intellect said that it's okay to beat a man until he's conscious, keep punching and kicking him when he's subdued? I really want you to think about that. Where was there any de-escalation? I'm only asking very valid questions. Was the guy selling drugs? Was he committing a crime? Was he doing anything? What led to such an aggressive car stop? Is it feasible to run? Yeah, criminals, let's say he was a criminal. Not calling him a criminal, but let's say he was guilty of something. It is not out the realm of possibility for a person to try to run, either they're innocent or guilty under those circumstances. I want you to really look at this in an investigational way. Even if allegedly they're looking for street racers, do you know how dangerous it is to try to pull over a street racer? What if he would have just took his car and just went, vroom? I got to look at the video again to see if they had a police patrol car in front of him, or somebody was in front of him. You could have made this an even more dangerous situation where other people would have been hurt as well. There's a lot to be taken consideration for. People ask me, are you pro police? Yes. I'm not pro stupidity. I'm not pro criminality.
And why Tyree ran. He was fearful for his life, and obviously he was right to be.
And I'm not, I don't want to go too into depth. This is very reminiscent of a case we covered in Anton Black, who was scared of this very brutal cop who the town hired, the shit hired, who had kicked someone in the head, and he ran, and he ended up dead, over nothing again. Yeah, so I think you see in this the whole spectrum of how American police deploy violence in this country, and then we're like, why are we such a violent country? Why are people so upset with police? Why do cop watchers stand up and record police? Well, this is why. Because
well, we're a violent country because you don't raise your goddamn kids. You don't even raise children anymore. You just maintain them. You don't even take the time, America, to give your children a moral compass. You don't teach them respect for elders. You don't teach them respect themselves and their peers. You're a violent country because you like being violent. It's nothing to do with the police department. It's what you do with the American culture. And God knows if you're not violent, you're trying to teach 5-year-olds, you're trying to let transgender people or cross-dressers speak to 5-year-olds. And in my humble opinion, guess what? Children should not be involved or exposed to anything sexual in the first fucking place. Okay, I want you to explain corruption. What makes the police corrupt? Because you do notice that if you're going to blame these 5 officers, is that an outcome of what the entire law enforcement community is about? I really want you to answer that very carefully. Because if we're going to use that as a metric system to measure if police are corrupt in America, then every time a black man commits a crime, we're going to say, well, see, look at all these niggas commit crimes. You got to be careful with that. Everything and everybody's susceptible to corruption. You never heard of politics? You never heard of politics? The biggest criminals in this country wear suits. Everything can be susceptible to corruption. Are there some things that need to be changed? Yes. Are there some things that need to be taught or retaught or re-emphasized? Yes. But to say a whole institution, that would not be fair. Now, are there some institutions that need to get with the sign of the times? Of course. Is there any excuse for this brother dying? No, not at all. There's none. There was no intimate, danger. There was no imminent threat. There was no immediate action that needed to be taken? No. Matter of fact, since everybody has a law enforcement question, I'm gonna put the link in the chat. And please, one at a time, ask the question that you need. And I'm gonna put either come on the chat, super chat it, cash app it. I'm gonna give you a Q&A session. This is gonna be a Q&A. You're never gonna have fucking robots as police. Computers are not quick enough to make fucking decisions of empathy. They're just not. They're not made for empathy. If you give a computer a program, a computer's not going to deviate from that program. Where human beings will. Especially in a shoot, don't shoot scenario. There's a lot of children that pull guns on police, and the police took a second to either don't shoot or don't shoot, and those kids are still living. Salute to Burl Carter. For the super chat support. Well, you got to think RoboCop wasn't a robot; he was a cyborg. He still had his human brain about him and his human emotions. You got to think about it. Now, what we ought to really do and actually speculate is that justice will prevail, will there be a fair trial, will everything in discovery be panned out. I hate it when you have a case and all the evidence is not admitted, and they're trying to do this just to be like, we want to show that we held police accountable. Well, you got to make sure that every little thing, from the roof of the house to the goddamn cellar, is going to be giving a fair trial. And if you look at black men in American history, fair trial, we usually are given not. And the reason why I said I hope everything's a fair trial is because if you convict these men without, yeah, people do watch a lot of movies. If you convict these men without doing everything properly, you just threw your whole fucking case out the window. Let's say they are guilty or found guilty, and then they come up and say, hey, this wasn't present in discovery and this is needed, and you just violated the constitutional right. Boom. Because the body camera is a tool. And it's very easy for people to forget that they have them on. Two cops didn't have that on. Yep. Usually in most police departments, that's going to be what? That's going to be a violation and a departmental charge for not having your body cam on. You'll lose days. You'll get suspended. You lose pay. And people forget that when you go to the scene or you have a car stop or something suddenly happens, you can forget putting your body cam on. It's not that uncommon of an occurrence. Not that uncommon of occurrence. Now, if those officers actually did their job like they're always being filmed, which in today's society, Big Brother is always watching, you should take the time to actually say, hey, maybe what I'm doing is not conducive to my job. Maybe I should tone it down a bit if it doesn't call for me to be amped up right now. Maybe, just maybe. No, you don't need a body cam. You just need skills when you play me. Because if you get a body cam, you're always going to be looking at the reflection of, damn, I got my ass kicked again. Hey, Art, what time are you having the Coliseum tonight? I want you to really think about it. Not just the police, but society in general. We got away from actually having respect for each other. We got away from actually having empathy and respecting human life and sanctity. And it spills over in the criminal justice system a lot. Because Lord knows there's a lot of black men. Remember, 10:30 at the Coliseum, folks. You don't have American society conducive to being polite, cordial, respectful. So when you see shit like this, you're like, wait a minute, why are you bringing this thug ass fucking shit into the police department? It's no difference than the white officer, what he did to George Floyd. That was some thug ass shit. And you know, during this type of climate with policing, why would you even do some stupid shit like that? How can you be such an idiot when you don't even realize the cameras on the poles is videotaping and giving an even better view than what the body cams could of your actions? Oh yeah, there's a lot of ignorance when it comes to law enforcement. There's a lot of ignorance because not a lot of people do it. Not a lot of people don't even understand the military because only 0.5% of the population of the United States at any given time protects it. Things happen. I know emotions can run high. We're not robots. But you're not supposed to let them get so high that you're no longer in control. And see, physical cuts are not a good thing because, one, if you have less vehicles and less personnel, and nationally we're having a deficit of police officers, that's not a good thing. But of course, they're going to come out with a lawsuit. The family's going to get paid, rightfully so, wrongful death. and it penalizes the people who actually do their job. I'm gonna get rid of the notion of the nobodies bullshit. I'm gonna get rid of this notion real quick because one thing about people, power, like the super soldier serum, does not just enhance your attributes, it also brings out what you really are inside more so. How do we not know that these guys weren't the bullies in school? I've never seen somebody who was a bully in school grow up to be a fine, upstanding gentleman. So we can stop at the notion that it's the people picked on. It's usually the people who were picked on in school do the best damn job because they know how it feels to be a goddamn victim. I'm going to really put it to you this way. Most major city police departments are probably down 1,000 officers. I never seen the guy who get picked on become the bully. I've always seen the bully continuing being the bully. It's usually the guys who get picked on become bigger and stronger to even learn how to defend himself or other people from being victimized from bullies.
Been a couple cop watchers sitting out there with cameras, maybe this wouldn't have happened. You know, I hate to say that, but I think maybe this gives us a reason.
By the way, Arthur Whitmore gets bullied by me on Madden all the time. I know. I should really pay a penance for my actions, but beating him is destroying.
Why some of these guys go out, women and men go out and like record cops. Maybe if there had been cop watchers out there, maybe this wouldn't happen.
So, Memphis Police Chief Sherilyn Davis said.
And on a red pill lesson, I'm going to tell you this. You're going to get people out there to say, see, I told you black men were violent, especially them divester bitches. Especially these haters of black men. And you're right. Discrimination against black candidates hiring has levied against the department. Yes, hit the Cash App, people. You're getting lessons that most cops are not going to tell you. If anybody want to come to the chat and say a few words, the link is in the chat. What I've noticed in my industry is that the more people public you are. What I've noticed in my industry is that the more public you are about your shit, the less likely you are to be corrupted. Is it possible to make the police transparent and effective? Yes. The police department has been very transparent. It's just that people don't like the fact that there are certain channels that you have to go through. There's a certain hierarchy. Anybody got any questions, they're free to come up. Hit the Cash App, hit the Super Chat, people. Y'all getting some education today.
This was a failing, a moral failing, and that this was absolutely casting aside Tyree's humanity. I was really surprised to see how quickly the police department responded, how quickly they fired these officers, and also that charges were brought against these officers in under 20 days. They moved very quickly on this. What do you think is the impact impact of Chief Davis's words and the swiftness with which they moved.
Well, I think you had to ask the question, why the hell did she have a unit called Scorpion in an American neighborhood? In a neighborhood of American citizens who have constitutional rights, but a unit called Scorpion running around, 5 or 6 people in plain clothes. When we know,
Obviously, very aggressive cop.
it was heartbreaking to hear the audio from the video, and they just seemed like
Calling out for his mother. It
but
was
using the words, the language they were using, the way they were treating him.
out for his mother. It
But
was
using the words, the language they were using, the way they were treating him, you know. But that's America. When you see the kid sitting there and his head drops and he's dying. And
Stephen, I'm so glad you brought that up. When Tyree was bleeding, cuffed, propped up against the car, and he falls over, the officer says, "Oh, he's really high. He must be high." Already either fabricating an excuse or just essentially dismissing his pain as if his injuries weren't apparent. I was shocked by that.
Well, think about how transformative police custody is in the custody of our criminal justice system. It is a prelude to tyranny, but not just tyranny, but cruelty. You know, because he ceased to be human. If they seen a person who wasn't under arrest sitting there like that, they might have provided, medical attention. But if he was in handcuffs, suddenly he's not worthy of medical attention. That is the American criminal.
Well, no. If you put hands on a suspect, or if they injure themselves in any way, you have to call for medical attention. At least that's what you're supposed to do.
So, what's going on, brother?
What's up, AL?
I got a
How you
question,
doing,
bro.
fellas? How you doing?
What's up?
I got a question. Before he can put his hands on you or deem you a threat of let's see, with evading arrest or whatever, resisting arrest, doesn't he have to RAS you before he put hands on you?
Does he have to what?
RAS, reasonable articulate suspicion.
I mean,
L, you saying he has to strike first or something like that?
No, I'm asking before he can put hands on you or strike you for resisting arrest or whatnot. Before they detain you, they have to RAS you if that man asks you what is the RAS, reasonable articulable suspicion of a crime I committed.
Because
No.
In other words, if you want to look at the actual definition of detainment, if I say stop,
you're trying to engage into a contract with me. I don't have to engage in a contract with you. You're the public servant. I'm the private citizen.
Hold on. When you talk about detainment can be stopped right there.
Okay, what are your grounds?
And then detainment is, okay, you cannot leave.
Okay, and before you can detain me, in order to detain me, you still have to have a reasonable articulable suspicion of a crime I'm about to commit and actually commit or trying to commit. You're jumping the gun, bro.
Detainment is not just See, let me explain this. Detainment is not just, okay, I don't have to have a good reason to detain you.
What?
It's a good.
That means so basically what you're just saying is you're engaging into a contract with me to try to get me in handcuffs. The
legal term for detainment is when you are held. You are not to leave. You are not able to leave by your free will. So
correct.
So in other words, having a good reason is a good reason of detaining you because of investigation. It doesn't mean if it's good or bad.
So you can just walk up on anybody and detain them for any reason.
You can do it, but it makes it. There's a difference if it's legal or illegal. You get what I'm saying?
Okay, I get
There's
that
no.
part.
It's no different than if you and your wife were arguing, and you stand in front of the doorway and prevent her from leaving. That's detainment. That's false imprisonment.
Mhm.
See what I mean? It would be better to say they falsely imprisoned him. They falsely imprisoned him than to just say you have to do this. No, if I have a good reason, there's sometimes I can't tell you until I'm sure. Or
Uh, See, that's entrapment, bro. That's entrapment. It gives you all the leverage to stop anybody you want, just to rash them over and do what you want, bro. That's not no. That goes against the Constitution, Jack.
But
That's a
but
policy.
AL, but
but this
AL,
That's a
his
policy, and policy ain't law.
I understand AL. Here's when the
this is
entrapment cannot work. So all we have to
entrapment.
do that.
This is entrapment for everybody.
Yeah,
Entrapment is if I can be an undercover drug dealer. I can't say here, take these drugs and put them in your lap. That's entrapment. But if you willingly try to buy or sell drugs, that's not entrapment.
yeah. Like
I'm giving
you
you
remember The Wire? What season was it? Season 3, the Amsterdam. That was an entrapment. That was entrapment. That's why Bodie claimed entrapment when they told him they knew what it was. They told him he could sell the drugs, and he was able to beat that case because it was entrapment right there.
so in other words, what they did was a false imprisonment and under the law you can resist a false arrest. Now,
Okay, okay, I get you on that part, but before you go on, let me just stop you because I need clarification. Okay, from what you just told me, okay, I'm walking down the street. Cops see me. I see them. I make eye contact with them. You can physically see I'm not breaking any forms or any laws. I'm walking down the street, but you decide you want to stop and detain me because you think I'm suspicious. Suspicion is not a crime.
no, in other words, this is reasonable suspicion. If you're an officer and you're walking the beat or driving a patrol car, you see a guy outside of a store, and let's say it's 85 degrees and he's got this long, big ass coat on or jacket. It looks out the way. You cannot arrest off of reasonable suspicion. You can only arrest off of probable cause. You can only search from probable cause. That's why if I had to search a person, they're already arrested because of the same probable cause.
Okay, so you
Now,
said because he had a long coat on in 85-degree weather, that gives you probable cause to stop him?
no, what did
And
I
he
say?
had,
Did I say? Did I say is that probable cause of reasonable suspicion? It's a propensity of circumstances. Meaning, would that look weird to see a guy in a long trench coat, 80-degree weather? Yes. Do you
but
see this guy? Hold on. Do you see this guy with a bulge in his, let's say if he's right-handed, in his right pocket? He's constantly checking that pocket. He's looking around and looking at the cash register. It just looks, there's so many things that add up that looks out of place. Yes, you can.
But no. Out of place and breaking the law are two different things. And what you basically been describing is you can jump the gun to assume some shit before it even happens. Your job is to
No.
enforce the laws that have been broken, not
Well,
to assume everybody's breaking the law.
in other words, I'm going to explain this once again. You go and you look at the preponderance of things. This guy is casing this place. He's looking around. He's got this coat.
Okay.
And you go to talk to him to investigate. Because one, when you're investigating this, there is no crime committed yet. Right? You cannot arrest over what? Reasonable suspicion.
But
He
what are you investigating, bro?
did
He ain't broke no law. You jumping the gun, like I said, because
there's
you say,
no
well, he looks like this. He looks like that. Looks are not breaking no law. Okay, having a demeanor that you don't like as an officer is not cause for you to walk up on me.
I want you to listen. You can investigate. Does it mean he has a crime? No.
What?
Even if you call, hold on. Even if I get a call to say this guy standing in front of the store, he's got a bulge in his pocket, he's wearing this long coat. Even if I pat him down, even by law, you can't pat for drugs, you can't pat for money or some stolen money. You can only pat down for weapons. And you can't go inside of that coat. You got to pat down the outermost garment.
They
And
don't do that.
what? It's if the guy has nothing on him, there's nothing on him. Because for all we know, the guy could be hired security by one of the stores. So wouldn't that be nice to know?
It's
Oh,
none of your damn business until a crime has been committed, though. You
and
look,
that's why you have to
you're not hearing
another.
yourself,
You know,
bro.
I'm hearing myself.
Y'all fish.
You're
Basically, what
not
you're saying is
saying.
you're
Hold it.
fishing to look for
I am
crime. You're
myself.
fishing to look for crime.
I understand your frustration,
I'm
but
telling you.
here's the logic of it all. Are you worrying about your safety going home, despite you were stopped by the cops, cooperating as much as possible? Or are you worrying about trying to fight with him with your anger and your suspicion? Most situations, you actually have more control over situations when cops stop you than you think you could. You actually could. And I've been through this a couple of times. And stuff when I
I've
got
been
stopped.
through it my whole life.
I might not like it, but I'm gonna cooperate as much as possible because I'm trying to get from point A to point B and alive as possible.
And
My
here,
bad.
If I know as a man I ain't committed no crime, I'm not cooperating with shit. I'm
But
not
it
talking to
doesn't
you.
matter
Don't
though.
talk to me. Get the fuck away from me.
But
And
it
that's
doesn't.
what I'm gonna tell him.
And this is why you will get yourself caught up in these situations where you
Nah,
like that.
bullshit. But he gonna get himself caught up because I'm gonna terminate the conversation. Hey, how you doing? I know. Hey, how you doing? I'm not talking to
Here's
you.
the thing.
I don't have to talk to you,
But AL,
and
here's the
I
thing.
know that.
hold on,
I know that.
hold
But
on,
here's the,
hold on.
but
I'm gonna give you this. Number one, if there's an investigation to determine there's no crime, there will be no crime. This is the reason why you have, the stop and frisk. This is the reason why you had Miranda, because this came up in the Supreme Court one way or another. Now, if that guy has a weapon and he's casing a joint, okay, there has to be an investigation. Because what happens if he really was about to rob that place? You came on the scene and you did nothing. Whose ass is that going to be on the line? Whose ass
I
is no. Whose ass is on the line? That officer. Because your job as a police officer is to investigate to see if there was a crime at all.
investigate when
It's just,
you get a call over the Motorola.
no,
You
no,
don't
no.
manufacture
Al,
investigations, card.
Al. I'm gonna tell you this.
You're
Love you, love you, damn it, but
manufacturing
you
an
gotta listen.
investigation, bro.
I love you, damn it, but god damn it, listen.
I love you too, bro. Come on, we just
I'm gonna
passionate
tell
about
you.
what we talking about.
I'm
We
gonna tell you this. There,
go
many of
ahead.
your calls is called on view. Not all your calls come over the damn radio because you can do observing, and this is the one thing that's a missing art of police work. You have to investigate because somebody can call and say this guy's robbing my store. You go to talk to that individual and be like, I'm not robbing the store. All I know, this guy can have a skin disease and wear the long coat. I've been on these calls. That's what I'm giving. I had to stop a classmate of mine from high school who had the same the same skin tone, the same clothing, the same pants, the same boots and coat. And I'm like, and they were like, what happened? And I checked them and I'm like, and this is the call that came over the radio. played what came over the radio again. And guess what happened? Ended up the same call, and ended up he was not the suspect, but the suspect had the same clothing description as him. It's called investigation. What
Okay.
happened with these guys, they didn't do a damn investigation properly. They went in their guns literally blazing. If you're going to say you stopped them for reckless driving, number one, you got to give me a fucking ticket to say that I was fucking driving recklessly.
Correct.
Even if I'm driving recklessly, does it call for you to pull a gun on me? No. Now, it'd have been different if you're running the tags and it's coming up stolen. That's a different fucking thing.
Yep.
That's a different, because I've been in those six. See, this is the benefit of having a seasoned law enforcement officer.
One with experience.
With experience, know how, will how, and will tell you how this shit goes. Have I seen bad investigations? Yes. Like any good job, because like if I tell you, if I had somebody to say, hey, how do you troubleshoot, a tractor trailer? It's gonna be you, it's gonna be Meech, and a few other of our brothers who do the track. Because guess what? You've been driving trucks probably longer than some of the people watching our shows been alive, right? There are certain intricate things you know about that damn truck that a person who is just starting out trucking would not know, right? Same thing with policing.
Yeah.
It's just like this. Yes, I can stop people. Does it make it legal? Not all the time. Like when you look at this one, that was not a legal stop. You got it. And as a matter of fact, for the longest time, you could not stop a person for not wearing a seatbelt in Baltimore until they made it a priority a car stop. You had to add that in with a tail light. And even then, majority of the time, people don't even get tickets. They give repair orders. You feel me? Hey, go get your light fixed. And see, what we got to look at it is this. Did they have a legitimate reason to stop him? Because reckless driving is, you have to really articulate it. Unlike running a red light, unlike running a stop sign. And when you're saying, what did he do that conducted reckless driving? Well, you were swerving. Well, I had some debris on the road. Of course I'm a swerve. You know them little metal plates when the city's doing construction? Yeah, you're going to swerve that shit. It has to be reasonable within your investigation. Number one, I did not see, according to these fucking body cams and the street light, anything in their fucking action that was even reasonable. Now, if I can articulate a guy wearing a long jacket, 80 degrees with a bulge in his pocket, doing security checks, because if you're with me, and many of you might even see me at BlurCon, hopefully you all come because we'll take pictures and do a meet and drink. You may see me do a security check. Police do it too. Why? Because we're trying to check to make sure the gun's still there. You may not be allowed to be on my right side like that, unless I trust you. Remember, the same thing cops do. How do cops know these signs? Because we do it ourselves. When we're off duty, even on duty, we may check to make sure the gun's still there. There are certain things, like when you stop a car, you look for somebody dipping their shoulder down because either they're putting something away or they're picking something up. So you have certain key things you have to look at. And then you got to look at number one. This is the one thing I didn't agree with Brandon Tatum. Well, why didn't he comply? Why didn't he run? It's our job to catch you. It's your job to get away. Whether if I agree with it or not, I understand the circumstances. Mm-hmm. If I say stop police, many of motherfuckers are going to run. How do I know? Many of motherfuckers ran. Thank God I was able to catch 90% of them, but there were some motherfuckers who either had that much of speed on me, or they knew the cuts of the alleys.
Ooh.
Yeah, the police do have a right to stop you and ask questions.
Yeah.
Now, there's a certain limit with that right. If there's no obvious crime, you don't have to speak to me. It's no difference than you speaking to a girl getting her number. I can say, hey, sir, can I speak to you for a second? If there's no crime, you can say no and walk about your business, and there's not a damn thing I could do. But if I have reasonable suspicion and something that I can actually write down that makes sense and that was observable, that's a different story. But that's just like I said about the detainment of this young man. The detainment of this young man didn't make any sense because you really didn't see anything in that video that will even remotely articulate to reckless driving. This is also, if you're going to be in that car and you got your body cam, why couldn't we see that they're doing reckless driving? Probably because of the position of the body cam on his vest.
Or they should have had a dash cam video.
That's if the department can afford them.
Well, that is true. I'm just saying, like, you know, as far as the police, you know, I've had bullshit stops done on me, man. Like, I was walking down the street with a duffel bag, got my work clothes in it. I was walking to work, and I got stopped by cops, and their reasoning for stopping me because I didn't look at them because they drive past.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
It's a bullshit stop for them to do an investigation, but it is what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they could use that as saying that, you know, well, we had a reason because they said because you didn't look at
you fit the description. In other words.
The first they said because I didn't look at them when they passed by, and the second is they said, well, there's a lot of break-ins in this area, so you had a duffel bag, you was walking down the street, we were just checking you out.
But fuck that shit. You don't have to look at them.
No, but the thing, but this is the thing. It's not the thing. Me looking at
we know it's bullshit.
It's we know it. I know it's bullshit, but it's the simple fact that if I try to go to court and say, well, you did was carrying a duffel bag, and if they could prove that there were break-ins in the area, and they're checking everybody with a duffel bag.
But here's the problem with that. If you're going to use that to say, well, we're checking a duffel bag, it's one thing. I'm going to give you another scenario. Once again, it's good to have experts in the field, even though I'm not one of them. Not one of them.
No, you're not.
Just play one on TV.
He's not an expert in copism, and he's not an expert in Maddenism.
Oh, hey, y'all start going in on each other. Stick to the script, stay on subject, because he is an expert.
I'm going to put it to you this way. I may not be a cop with law enforcement issues, strategies, and procedures, but I'm an expert of handing you your ass in Madden. That's why they don't call me the Madden. They don't call me the Madden King. They call me the Madden Emperor. But back to the serious case in hand. See, it goes by how can I articulate it, okay? And this is the point in print. Maybe I should teach classes on this shit one day. It's like if you were walking on a street, right? All right.
Yes, sir.
You were walking on a regular city street, right?
Yeah, walking on the sidewalk.
Walking on a sidewalk. Okay. Is it common for people to walk with a duffel bag?
Not really.
It's common. It's rather common. People come with
a book bag. Yes,
a book bag or a duffel bag is pretty common. But it's one thing if I see you walking with a duffel bag and you're in the middle of an alley. You get what I'm saying? Because most people are not going to break in the front of your house. There's more articulable, reasonable suspicion. I can come up and say, hey, we're doing burglary checks. We're on this burglary detail and we're checking all the alleys. It's very rare people are going to kick in the front door.
Yeah, but this is my whole thing with that. I know it was bullshit and I was mad about it, but I still understood it. Because if I had some type of burglary equipment like a ice pick or something that looks like I can pick locks, then it could be like, okay.
If you have things like tools which the official terminology in Baltimore or Maryland, the state of Maryland, because we charge you by the state court systems.
Mm-hmm.
It's called duffel bag impmore.
And fuck you, Mike V.
It's called rogue and vagabond. Because what rogue and vagabond is, you'll see guys with tools that are burglary tools.
Yeah, burglary tools.
And a lot of people, probably the first time you heard that term for a lot of people. And I can arrest you for that, or at least at the most detain you. Now, if you have property and it's readily available, that property does not belong to you, because I had a call one time where we had a house burglarized. A couple of officers, had the description of a guy with some tools in a bag, and he had some property in another bag. That was from a witness. Fit the description of, the person who broke in, but he was like five blocks down the street, probably closer to 10. He was stopped because he fit the description. Come to find out, when we checked the bag and everything, like, sir, what do you have in your hand or bag? And he had property that belonged to the lady who was burglarized, because I don't know too many niggas with brooches, and stuff like that was passed down from our grandmother. And we're like, okay, we got enough preponderance of evidence to say, hey, you did it. Now, remember, what's the root word of probable? Probability.
Probably had like an 85 to 90% chance that he probably did it.
Yeah, 65 to 85. Well, 51 to 99, as I like to call it. There's a probability, because you may not have done it. You may know who did do it. Hell, you could have picked it off the ground. But what do we convict people of in the United States?
Probability.
We convict people. We arrest probability, and we used beyond a reasonable doubt.
Or in some cases now, feelings.
Feelings.
Public opinion.
But
i.e., what's the old boy's name with Megan Thee Stallion?
Tory Lane.
Tory Lane. That was feelings.
Feelings.
Shout out to she.
Court of public opinion.
Even though I'm still laughing at I gotta tease Mel, because when him and BGS had his background, and he was like, and he's the one telling us calm down. I'm just like, man, we must be doing bad right now with this debate. Mel was like, calm down. But shout out to Mel.
Funny, after you talked to me yesterday, I would have probably stopped the debate right there, but they kept antagonizing me more and more.
I know. Sometimes some people have their limits, and some people have their things that set them off. Mm-hmm. So it's like, this is like, I guess this is the tailgate for the Coliseum, I guess.
Yeah. And if anybody wants me to fucking beat Charles and Madden, hit that cash app. Hit that cash app.
Hit the cash app, because when I get off, I might have to whoop your ass in Madden.
I'm ready to go Mortal Kombat on you right now, Charles. Damn.
Not because I want to, it's because I have to.
I need some cash apps from Charles. Get this guy some kind of comfort. So, because when I comfort that ass, he's going to be grass.
You know what?
Have a tournament battle, man.
You know what I'm gonna do for you, just for you,
right now.
Just for you, I'm gonna just do you like an old granddaddy in North Carolina. Get that 1/4-inch leather belt and drag you by the seat of your pants and take your ass to the woodshed, boy. And wear your ass out like the cheap Payless shoes.
I'm not doing it unless you get some cash outs, motherfucker. I'm not gonna go in my living room and take apart my PS5 just to beat your ass.
I mean, I'd do it for free. I would do it for free, but guess what? Shit, these ass whoopings cost that I give out.
I'm planning on getting my PS5.
I'm gonna tell you, because on a serious note, I might have to really focus in on going more and more law enforcement stuff, because a lot of people do not understand the procedures. And yes, even though I'm going to another another department that's smaller, but you still have to, even the Padawan, there's shit that I taught him that he never thought of. And I tell people, the way they came up on the scene, you would have thought that was a stolen car or a kidnapping. You know, because we had to box a guy in for driving a stolen car. Yeah, we had our guns out because we didn't know. We didn't know if the guy was armed or not because most of these cars that get stolen, usually a good amount of them are from carjackings.
Mm-hmm.
So when I can understand if it was a stolen car, you got your gun out, but there's very few times I'm gonna have my gun for just a goddamn, a guy swerving or doing something that's appeared to be reckless. Because once again, you really need a stronger case for that. Because if one guy, if I see him swerving or constantly doing it, I'll be like, oh, how come you were swerving? They were like, and I pulled over one of my best friend's cousins. Oh, said I was pulling you over because you were doing mad swerve. He was like, my bad. I have real bad alignment issues, and there was some stuff wrong with the street, which was true. So majority of the times when people get pulled over, majority of the time they don't even get tickets. You don't even get tickets.
Oh, I know that for a fact, man. When I got stopped last week, the officer was like, you know what, I'm gonna let you go because you was a gentleman and everything, which I was like, hey man. And he showed me the camera. He caught me rightfully handed while I wasn't following on the road, but he was cool about it because I was cool about it. Because
Yeah.
hey, man, I'm gonna cooperate as much as I can. Here you go. Like
And,
if
and,
I
and,
feel you wrong, we'll take care of it in court. But other than that, yo, you can see me cooperate as much as I can, whatever and all that stuff. Yeah, you make
and
the job
most
easy on him.
and most times I'm gonna tell people, because we are all black and this is America. Survive the encounter.
Bingo.
It's not about being a bitch. It's not about, oh, they doing it. Survive the encounter.
Bingo.
I'd rather live and sue the fuck out of you personally and the department and the city and possibly the state than to be in a predicament where my life is lost or I'm gravely injured and now I'm not there to fight the fight because dead man tells no stories.
I say
So
this all the time, Charles. I tell people all the time, like, yo, what's more important, surviving or trying to fight how much in your feelings about your rights you have, blah, blah, blah.
partially, I do agree with AL, but at the same time, because AL's a man almost 50 years old. We're talking about 18, 19, 20-year olds who never had that fatherly, or in his case, grandfatherly experience of masculinity. You have a lot of these young boys who go out
Yeah.
there with their mamas and they think their mama get their way because she acts a goddamn fool. Nigga, you black and you male and you look like a threat to anybody that's not black and male.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean, if you look at the whole thing about, how your mother would tell you stop, don't drink or drink in the store.
Yeah.
And you see these young kids still drinking. It is because they don't want you to look. They don't want people to look at you like you're stealing.
Yeah. Even though technically, if you want to look at the thing, I had a guy come to me when I was off duty, and he was a security officer, and he's like, "Well, follow me. Well, you got something in your bag." I said, "Do I, sir? What evidence do you have of that?" He was like, "Well, I saw you dipped it this way and dipped it that way." I said, "I know because you were following me now, and I wanted to fuck with you." And I said, "I have nothing in my bag." So I said, "Look, do you have any recording or any eyewitness that I put something in my bag?" He was like, "Well, I just look." I said, "No, no, no. We need to be proper because what you're gonna do is dig yourself in a real big hole." And when I told him, and when he noticed I was a police officer, he was like, "Oh." I said, "So, sir, you're gonna come to me about stealing when you didn't even pay attention to that lady right there about to get with that little duffel bag open, and she got the damn lotion bottle right there about to leave out the store."
Mm-hmm.
You ever seen that video from that scene in Grey's Anatomy when the parents teaching their son what to do when they stop by police? That
Yeah.
scene was so powerful and everything. I mean, this
It's
is what we need to teach our
shameful that
son.
it's shameful that you have to do that, but
Yeah.
such is life. And for life, once again, this goes back into my sermon of black men can't have a bad day.
Mm-hmm.
We
And
can't.
also too, I mean, because I remember Olivia Letza did like a video the same thing, situation like this, what to do when you stop by police. One of them actually said, this key point, you can exercise the right to remain silent.
Yeah,
Everything too.
that's like what did Chris Rock say? Shut the fuck up.
Exactly.
Tell your friends to shut the fuck up.
Tell your girl
To shut
definitely to shut the fuck up when they stop by police.
I'll be right back, fellas. Talk amongst yourselves. I'll be right back.
Well, I gotta go, but I want to say something to checking for you, if you don't mind, Charles.
Uh-huh.
All right, checking for you. I'm keeping the Coliseum alive. If people don't want to come to it, then that's not my problem.
I'll come to it.
Hey,
right.
I mean, the Coliseum has been a tradition for years now, almost a decade. So he's keeping it alive, man. But I'll be right back. Talk amongst yourselves.
If people,
that Coliseum has been alive since my days in LaPorte, Indiana, and Charles introduced me to it.
If people would, I'll be honest with you, if people would have protected BGS from the bullshit that he was going through, y'all would have still had a Coliseum.
Exactly.
From BGS, but now you got it from me.
Well, that's the thing. We
As
have
a matter of fact, I was gonna go, but I'm gonna say this before I come back. A lot of people want BGS to go, but I remember there was a certain somebody doxing him, and I had to dig in that motherfucker's ass to say, "You're doxing people, and you don't know shit about them, but I know a lot about you. Now either stop, or I will have a cease and desist letter against you." Or I might come to your door myself, and we could be on some down-hole nigga shit. Which would you prefer? And trust me, hey, the Coliseum is for those who enjoy it. We still like it. We enjoy it. You know, I'm not here to force anybody to like what they like, but hey, we keep the spirit of the Coliseum going. I'll be right back, folks. Talk amongst yourselves.
Well, I gotta go because I gotta get ready for my Coliseum.
I'll be over. Art, I'll be over there, if not briefly.
All right.
Because I support it, and I support you, and Charles, you know I support you.
Yep.
All right. NBA scoreboard looks like this. Suns and Spurs tied at 110. They're going to overtime. Bulls
Who cares? Go ahead. I'm saying I hate the Spurs. Go ahead. Who cares?
Hey, I got a good friend that's with the Spurs. He's their radio voice, and I'm going to have him on this week.
They screwed over my little nephew, so fuck them.
Bulls 128, Magic 109. That's a final. 1 minute in the money period. Timberwolves 114, Kings 106. Wizards lead the Pelicans. They're late in the fourth quarter, 100-94, and that's the Washington Bullets. Forget the Washington Wizards. Lakers and Celtics 51 apiece. They're at the end of 3. Utah leads Dallas 68-53. They're early in the third period. It's Toronto 23-7 in the first period, and they're halfway through. Yeah, they're halfway through the first period. Earlier today, Sixers beat the Nuggets 119. The New Jersey Nets beat the New York Knicks 122-115. The Houston Rockets 3 better than the Pistons 117-114, and the Clippers beat the Hawks 120-113. And that's your NBA scoreboard.
Yeah, correct me wrong. Playoffs tomorrow. Talking about playoffs?
I'm talking. It's Championship Sunday, and I'm nervous as all get out. I wasn't nervous last year because no one expected the 49ers to go as far as they did, which was the NFC Championship.
Mm-hmm.
This year, all I will say about both championship games, they're going to be slobber knockers, both of them. But my official picks are Bengals and 49ers.
Playing Super Bowl.
Back on the subject, you know, one thing that, in terms of law enforcement, you know, one thing a lot of black folks are not taught early on in life. Little word we like to call compliance. Little word we like to call compliance.
They got taught the laws neither. Period, point blank. What's the first thing a judge tell you when you get in front of them? Ignorance of the law is no excuse. But when you haven't even been taught this stuff in the household, let alone the public school system on purposely doesn't teach you shit and tell you
Yep.
shit. This is all set up to play a racket game for the goddamn criminal justice system and judicial justice system. Period, point blank.
Well, the person who taught me all about the laws in my family is the person who served in the army. That was my dad. And on the day where I'm remembering my mom, because today would have been her 83rd birthday, I'm remembering my dad too and all that he taught me.
Mm.
I saw Jody come in this evening because she had gone out with her mom. I broke down and cried.
Yeah, I'm about to get off, fellas. I'll see y'all over at the Coliseum. Gotta do some
Yeah,
stuff first.
I'll see y'all over there too.
Same
Okay.
here, same here. I'm fixing my food right now. I'm hungry.
Are you hangry?
Hungry. Want me some
Are
late night
you are you
air fried chicken with some vegetables.
are you hangry? 'Cause that's what my wife said when she came in tonight. She wasn't she wasn't hungry, she wasn't hungry, she was hangry.
Oh man.
And yes, she put that southern twang on it.
Yeah. Oh man.
And when she put that twang on it, I knew how hungry she was. How are you doing, Mel? You been all right?
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, Brian. Working on some stuff.
Yeah. I didn't want to stay on here long because I'm gonna check out Arts Coliseum and then I'm going to pass out. We gotta go get groceries in the morning and get ready for Championship Sunday.
Oh
And
yeah.
and either way, if the Eagles win or the 49ers win, because I love both teams, I'm not gonna have a voice.
Well, them two playing the Super Bowl.
NFC Championship, Eagles and
Oh, okay.
49ers.
Okay. All right.
Okay, I'm running over to the Coliseum, fellas.
All right,
All right, brother.
gentlemen. I will see y'all over there. I'm out of here too.
I am back. Now I know that everybody's going to the Coliseum, but hopefully, you know, you know, hopefully I got a few things off my chest and gave people some insight with policing. This won't be the last time. I'm pretty sure it's going to be even more coming soon. So I'm going to end this stream and thank you for everybody who donated, Cash App, Super Chat, and everything. And catch you over there by the Coliseum. And I like to let me shout out my Cash Apps. Shout out to Aquatechie, Shout out to Otto Whitmore. Woo! For the Negro. Woo! And also shout out to our good friend from across the pond, Ian Williams. Sir, you do such great work, sir. Listening now. Oh, yeah. Thank you, sir. So thank you for all the cash apps, and catch you over there at the Art of It more when it comes to the Coliseum. Later, folks. Woo!